Hi there, you're on Gossip Says channel. Enjoy watching, subscribe and like it. It's growing our community. Update of future mother-in-law doesn't want her son to marry defective merchandise. Update in comments, December 19th, 2019. Update warning. There is an act of violence in here and I'm still shaking from it. No, the main one wasn't against me depending on how you define violence. My ex came over to my parents tonight and said he wanted to talk. I have a good idea what he hoped would happen, but it definitely did not. We had a brief chat in which he said he was sorry and I told him I was moving back home to Germany soon. He started to tear up and so did I take responsibility for giving him the opening that was about to happen. We're both crying and we start hugging. As we're hugging, I don't notice one of his hands moving down my back to my ass until he gets a good handful of ass cheek and squeezes it. As soon as it registered in my brain what he was doing, I stepped back and let loose with my 6'1", 155 pounds. I'm a big girl and 25 plus years of developing a good forehand in tennis and just slapped him in the face. My hand still stings from the force of it. He staggered back and I just pointed to the door and yelled, "Get out," though I may have added some naughty words with it. He looked shocked at me and hung his head and just walked out the door. After I heard him get in his car, start it, and drive off, I broke down in tears. My father, who had been waiting and listening outside the room the entire time, he later explained it as listening to see if I needed backup, came in the room to me crying more at this point and he started to give me a big hug. A couple minutes later, while he's holding me, I thought that he might reach down and squeeze the other ass cheek. That thought sent me into hysterical laughter. We stood there holding each other while I'm alternating between laughing and crying. My mother comes downstairs and fixes us all something to drink. A few minutes later, my phone rings and according to caller ID, it's Barbie, my ex's mother and the one who started this all. Now I did not hear her side of the conversation, so anything attributed to her is what my father told me later. She basically says she's gonna call the cops on me for assaulting her son and my father says it was justifiable self-defense. My ex attacked me first, the ass squeeze, and we have cameras to show the whole thing to the cops should they show up. We don't. But she doesn't need to know that. She hung up and I haven't seen a cop since, so I don't know if she was bluffing or my dad's threat scared her off. Now I will admit that I missed the physical part of our relationship and he was my first and only at many things: first date, first kiss, first sex, etc. But none of that outweighs the hurt he and his mother caused me. I would rather go celibate for life rather than let him touch me again. I shouldn't have let him hug me in the first place, but it was a weak moment and I know not to let him do that again. Again, thank you for reading and the kind words of support. I thought I wasn't going to update again after the last one, and yet something else happened. Hopefully, unless it is a response to something written here or a message, you won't get another update from me until I am in Germany and away from this mess. It's late and I'm going to bed now. Update in comments, January 14th, 2020. Update: 1. Mystery solved. Throughout this whole ordeal, there have been 2 mysterious things I had no answer for. 1 is, why did he suddenly change his mind, and 2, how did Barbie, his mother, find out? It wasn't common knowledge, nor did I tell her. I had my suspicions as to how, and yesterday, they were confirmed. Was downtown on my lunch break. Been training the new girl who's replacing me. She seems really nice and capable. I would have liked to work with her if the circumstances were different. At lunch, I ran into Steve, his friend and neighbor who he's known since he was 3 or 6 years preemie. He said he had heard about us. He said it was a shame that we had broken up and wanted to know if it had anything to do with my infertility. Now, I had not told Steve. He wasn't a close enough friend to confide in, so I asked what he knew of my infertility. He then told me the whole story. Please subscribe, leave comments, rate videos, and click the bell not to miss my videos. This is from his point of view, and I'm only relaying what he said, so may not be 100% accurate. Steve and Jack, my ex, were working on Steve's car, don't know what kind. Only that it's from the 60s. I'm not a car girl. Never have been. 4 wheels, an engine, and a good stereo system is all I need to know. If you ask me what kind, I would say it's blue and old, nothing more. Now, before this, we had a very informal proposal. What do you want on your toast? It looks like it's gonna rain today. Should we get married? So they went to Jack's parents' house. He wanted an old heirloom ring that had been in his family for centuries and wanted to make a formal proposal. He asked where it was and why he wanted it, and his mom ran crying with glee upstairs to find it. When she came back down with it, she was crying and said it would be nice to have the pitter-patter of tiny feet around the house, and was I currently pregnant. It seemed odd to her, I guess, that we were getting married after 16 years of dating, living together. So she thought maybe he had knocked me up, and that's why the proposal after so many years. He said we already had the pitter-patter of tiny feet in Babette, my cat. She said no, I mean a baby, silly, and he responded with Mia can't have babies, and then proceeded to tell her my whole medical situation. She said something like this isn't going to happen, went back upstairs, returned the ring, and slammed the door. The next day is when she forbade me from marrying him, started calling me defective, and started this whole story. After telling me this story, I told Steve that yes, that is one factor in our breakup. He said, what a shame. You two made a great couple, and Jack was probably devastated. I then said bye and went on to lunch, and when I got home later that day, I went to my room and cried into my pillow before my father came up to get me for dinner. I had always suspected that he told her somehow, and while it's not a big state secret, it's not something I have ever felt comfortable telling people. Now that I am telling this story on this site, I have no problem saying my parts don't work to complete strangers, and it's been comforting. Thank you all for your support, and I leave for Germany on March 1st. I'll try to answer any questions you may have for me before then, but I guarantee nothing, as I'll be kind of busy with packing and doing my farewell tour around town, saying bye to old friends, going to restaurants I like and won't be back to in years, if ever, things like that. So that's one mystery solved, and the other could be solved if he would just answer it, rather than taking any form of communication I have with him as some sort of desire for him to get in my pants. Thanks again for your words and support, and barring something big happening between now and then, the next part of my story will come after March 1st. Update in comments, April 10th, 2020, 2-part update. We'll start with the good first. I left America March 1st and flew to Munich. Sat next to an elderly lady who was scared to death of flying, but was going to visit her son and his family. I don't remember what he did or why he was in Germany. So for the 10 or so hours we were in the air, she held my arm in a death grip, and anytime we hit an air pocket or shook around a little, it was a relatively smooth flight with just a few bumps here and there. She gripped even tighter, and later I discovered I had a bruise, but fortunately her nails didn't dig in. After deplaning and going through customs, she met up with her son and his family. This happened before all the quarantine and isolation started in earnest, so not much of a problem there. Then all the fun started with the quarantine, and I've spent most of my time at my friend's house, tutoring her kids in English and generally helping out around the house. I had 3 interviews scheduled before I got here, but they were all cancelled. My uncle up in Kulmbach has volunteered to drive the 3 hours down and take me back up there, but I haven't decided yet. The bad apparently Jack, my ex, has been having a hard time with this. Normally, when I and the family flew back to Germany in the past, we flew out of Cedar Rapids up to Chicago or Minneapolis, then flew on to Germany. Apparently, from what a friend told me, he drove out to the Cedar Rapids airport, not knowing we had driven up to Chicago, and I flew direct from there. When I didn't show up there, he went home and figured he got the time date wrong. He sent a few letters to my house. I had my mother open and read one to me on the phone, but shortly stopped her. Even though my mother and I have been open about my sex life, there were things in that letter I didn't feel like hearing or having her hear. The letter stopped when he lost his job for non-quarantine related reasons and later wound up in jail. Nobody has been able to tell me exactly what happened, but best guess from what I've been told. One night, he got into a shouting match with his mother, which turned physical, and his dad had to peel him off her until the cops showed up and arrested him. So I guess things got pretty bad so that one of the neighbors called the cops. I never would have expected this from him with anybody, much less his mom. If only he could have fought this hard for me way back when, things might be different. So, as of this update, I'm sitting around with not much to do, but at least I'm not in jail. Sorry for any errors. I loaned my laptop to my friend's son and it hasn't worked properly since, though he claims he did nothing bad to it. He's a good kid, so I believe him that it was probably just an accident. Hope everyone is staying safe and doing as well as can be during this time. Off Weeder's Hen, Mia, comment April 13, 2020. Thank you for your kind comments. The older lady on the plane was funny. When she sat down, she said "Sprechen Sie English," intentionally misspelled to demonstrate how bad it was. I hope things are well with her and she's able to get back to America eventually. There is a restaurant in Munich I was looking forward to going to, but that's been put off for a while, I guess. I have no idea what his intention in going to the airport was. If he thought there might be a talk her out of going moment, or just to simply say goodbye. I asked my mother to save up all the letters and mail them to me in a few months just out of curiosity. Maybe I'll read them on my birthday, July 12th. Yet another thing to think about and ponder for a while. Thanks again for your kind words and stay safe out there. Comment April 14, 2020. Thank you, and I saw no problem with your English. I had been thinking of calling him while I was here, but his recent troubles have made me rethink it. I have no idea how you call someone currently in jail. If I am motivated enough, I might try it. He only mailed the letters to my parents' house in Iowa because he has no clue, other than Germany, where I am right now. I am hoping that when this virus thing blows over, I will return to America for a visit in 2 years, and maybe I will feel comfortable by then to see him in person. It's like he had a complete personality change, and that's what mystifies me the most. He went from quiet and reserved to some sort of deviant maniac, and now I wonder when at some time in our marriage, if it had gone through, he would have laid his hands on me, like he did with his mother. To answer a previous question, I will be 33 in July and he will also be 33 in October. I have been to a lot of European countries, but Spain has not been one of them. Maybe once I get established here, it will be easier for me to jet over and check it out. Thank you again for your kind words. Stay safe during this current crisis. Edit. You Simple Enthusiasm 51 found some more posts. Post the 1st of April 2020. I actually spoke to him yesterday on the phone. When last I updated, he had been arrested and thrown in jail for assaulting his mother. I don't know if he's out on bail, or there were no charges, or what, but he has spent the last few days sitting in my parents' front yard, doing nothing but sitting. My dad said he was going to go out there and kick his ass, but my mom, who's definitely the cooler-headed of the two, went out there and calmly told him I was gone and he should pick up and start his life over too. She called me and told me this, so I decided to call him, which I did last night. He answered and sounded kind of relieved it was me, but also sad. J equals Jack my ex, M equals me or Mia, either one works. This is the conversation to the best of my memory. J, hello, M. Hello, I understand you're out in my parents' front yard. Well, I'm not there, so please leave them alone. J, I was hoping that the rumors I heard weren't true, that you were still here and we could talk. M, I tried talking before and you just took it as a chance to grab my ass and act as if sex could solve this whole thing. J. I'm sorry, I've never broken up before, so I'm not sure how to go about it. M. I've never broken up before either, but I think I've handled it better. I just gotta know why. J. I have to do what my mother says, and she wasn't happy when she found out you couldn't have children. M. You're 32. I don't think you have to do what your mother says anymore. J. You just don't understand. M. I do understand. We had discussed the problem before and had come up with solutions which apparently aren't satisfactory to her, so you threw our relationship away. Did it mean that little to you? J. You didn't have to go away. When are you coming back? M. Not for a couple of years. Once this whole pandemic thing is over, I can hopefully find a job and my own place to stay. J. Come back, please. M. I'm sorry, but you made your choice. Barbie, his mother or me? I hope the two of you are quite happy together. Throughout all of this, he is crying, and I'm doing my best not to. J. Please come back. We can get married and adopt or whatever. I'm sorry. We can find a way to work this out. M. I told you there were always alternatives, but you threw those away along with me. Plus, Barbie's going around calling me defective and she won't accept us adopting. How does that change? J. You're not defective. I'm sorry, but I can't control what she thinks. M. No, but you support what she thinks. You've known this about me since we were 16. Suddenly it's an issue. J. I don't like her calling you defective. In case you hadn't heard, I just spent time in jail for defending you. M. Maybe if you had done that when this all started, I'd still be there. I think that broke him, because he kept quietly whispering sorry over and then hung up. I just laid on the bed and quietly cried until Victoria, my friend's oldest child, knocked quietly and told me it was time for dinner. Sorry for the formatting, still trying to get used to how Reddit works. Also sorry if I came across as a bitch in this, but when someone throws away a relationship that goes back to childhood, I can be a bit upset. Hope everyone is staying safe through this whole pandemic thing, and hopefully, when it's all over, I can get on with my life here in Germany. Post the 2nd of May 11, 2020. Warning. There is talk of suicide in here, not me, just someone else in the story hinting at it. So, I moved out of my friend Vanessa's this weekend. Her family was incredibly nice in taking me in, but when we first planned this, it was pre-virus, and I thought I'd have my own place and a job and everything. My uncle said he would drive down and pick me up, and I felt better taking his offer than continuing down there. So, he came down Saturday, spent the night with some friends of his, and we drove back up to Kulmbach on Sunday, where I am currently staying with him and his wife and typing this out before bed. It's weird being here, given I was born here and lived my first 9 years here, but even when I've been here on vacation in the past, it never felt as strange just being here. I don't know if it's the feeling of the town being deserted or my current personal situation. It just doesn't feel right. Anyway, that's enough of miscellaneous rambling. I'm just trying to avoid typing the real part of this story if you couldn't tell. Friday night, Jack, my ex, called me. I still have the same phone and the same account back in Iowa, so when it rang with his distinct ringtone, it caught me by surprise. I picked it up and said, "What do you want?" Which I know was a bit rude, and I apologized to him about it as soon as he said, "I just wanted to see how you were doing and say hi." So, we proceeded to have a pleasant conversation when I could hear screeching and "Is that her?" followed by him saying, "I'm talking, leave me alone," when she, Barbie, his mother who started all this, got on and said, "Leave my son alone, haven't you done enough damage?" To which I responded by simply hanging up. She must have gotten his phone and tried calling me a few more times, none of which I answered, but when I checked voicemails later, she was going off on how I ruined his life. how he had lost his job, which we knew was going to happen anyway last year when the owner of his company announced his retirement, and that he was selling off the assets. But he gave 1 year notice and even helped some employees find work elsewhere. He had lost his house. We sold our house after our breakup. He had been caught drinking in public. I guess he bought a few bottles, went down near the lake and drank in the park and got busted by the police for it. Heard that from another friend earlier, and how he had attacked her mentioned before, but I secretly hoped he would have decked her good before his dad intervened. She even got to use her favorite word, defective, saying that if she had known 16 years ago that I was defective, she would have gotten her son a nice, normal girl to be with. She also mentioned that Jack had talked about suicide recently, saying there's no point in going on. I tried calling back, but every time, she picked up the phone and resumed her screaming, so I gave up trying and just wrote him a letter, which I sent to my parents for them to deliver to his house, figuring Barbie would just see it was from me and intercept it if I sent it to him directly. I told him that I still loved him and wanted him to do well in life and move on, but that it was over between us. So, here I am 5,000 miles away, civilization shut down, living with my aunt and uncle and just waiting for when I can put my life back together. Thanks for reading, and sorry about any formatting errors. I think I'll put up my laptop now and go to sleep.